I advise you to lower your weapons. Any rules followed by the High Table and the Continental in the dark and violent world of John Wick, the High Table is considered the highest form of governance. They oversee the underworld across the globe, and this organization appears to have control over all local governments and the entire community of assassins. The Continental Hotel is one of its main tools, allowing this organization to operate swiftly. There are various branches of the Continental around the world, and their managers act as judges, jurors, and executioners at the behest of the High Table. Within this complex management system, there are several ancient rules and practices that are strictly adhered to. In this video, we will explore each rule followed by the High Table and the Continental hotels, for without rules, we live like animals. Before we delve into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you enjoy our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. It's a small click for you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you, and let's get started. 125 grains, 1425 F. What is the true capacity of the Continental Hotel and its manager? There's usually a subtle shape behind most high-end operating tables, and the Continental Hotel is the largest of them all. It hides in plain sight and serves as one of the high-end's most efficient tools for conducting its business. While these may be grand hotels, there are secret markings for these hotels that allow assassins and other members of the organization to gain special access. There are several Continental hotels around the world, and while we mostly see the Continental New York in the movies, the Continental Osaka in Tokyo plays a key role in the latest release, John Wick Chapter 4. These hotels serve as neutral ground for assassins, a place of diplomacy. Where business can be discussed, violations of hotel policies result in some forms of severe punishment, which can be a death sentence from the higher-ups, or the individual may be declared excommunicado, meaning they can no longer utilize the facilities of the Continental Hotel worldwide. The best way to avoid this is to ensure that nothing lingers about it, or you could choose to go to the Continental Hotel, I have no doubt about that, but staying for a long time is a completely different issue. What happens if the managers break the rules? The managers of the Continental Hotel may have a lot of power, but they are not above the rules. The higher-ups assert that their rules apply to everyone, regardless of hierarchy or rank. Even the managers are included within this scope. If you've ever watched John Wick, the films you are familiar with portray the consequences that await individuals if they fail to comply, as a punishment for their shortcomings. They are requested to resign from their positions, and in some instances, the hotel itself is declared unholy, which indicates a loss of its status as neutral ground. Once the Continental Hotel is deemed unholy, it essentially becomes a sign for the High Table to issue a death warrant against the manager, as they are now permitted to send their mercenaries to eliminate the rogue employees. After Winston assists John in escaping following his assassination of Santino on Continental grounds, the High Table dispatches an assessor to convey the message that he is required to resign. His rebellion leads an entire cadre of assassins to the doors of the Continental in New York, and Winston is able to fend off the assault thanks to the trust placed in his friend. Regarding Chiron and John Wick, something similar happened to COI, the manager of the Osaka Continental, where his hotel was declared non-sacred and attacked for protecting John during his excommunication. COI was killed for his disobedience, and the Continental Hotel in New York was destroyed because of Winston's decision. This is your blood, your bond, a mark that must be honored according to Winston's words. These rules are as important as the prohibition against doing violent business on Continental grounds. The mark is a blood oath signed by both parties. Typically, after one party performs a life-saving or life-changing act for the other party at the expense of their time and even risking their own life, the other party then becomes indebted and signs a blood oath in the form of a medal. This must be repaid at all costs, and the mark must be honored without exception. Sometimes, the party may demand the most impossible and outrageous things. This is one of the rules explored in John Wick Chapter 4, and it dates back to ancient times, according to the old ways of the High Table. One member has the right to challenge another to a duel that will settle their dispute. Faced with Marquis Vincent de Meaux, a high-ranking member of the High Table and his squad of assassins, Winston advises John to utilize this ancient rule to settle the matter once and for all. However, there is a catch. In order to challenge a member of the High Table, they must be a member of an affiliated crime family. This leads John to trace his roots to the Roma crime family in Germany, and his adopted brother marks him with the family crest, making the duel a legitimate challenge. The duel is conducted by authorized personnel of the High Table, and both individuals are given identical weapons to engage in a fight that lasts until one is killed. A person can lift another person into his vehicle, but the fate of the battle will determine the outcome. The time and place of the duel are predetermined, and failure to arrive on time can result in the participant's execution. Additionally, there can be a supporter in a duel, essentially someone standing by to support the other person. This person will also face the same fate as their opponent. In this case, Vincent de Groff lifted Kane to fight him, but once he entered the fight, nothing could stop JN from putting a bullet in his head. Winston is John's supporter and successfully reclaims his control of the Continental Hotel after John's victory. Gold coins in my world are the largest cryptocurrency. These unique gold coins serve as currency in the world of gangs and assassins, and most facilities and resources in the underworld can be accessed using these coins. In the latest release, the blind assassin Kane is another individual who managed to escape this system. He serves at the high table. He was long and strong before retiring, and we can assume the impossible tasks he had to complete to be free. Fortunately, his daughter's safety was threatened, and he was forced back, much like how Santino's Mark forced John Wick out of retirement. There is a strong code of honor among assassins, though it may be an unspoken rule, but it can be observed among all great fighters. In many of John Wick's fights, he doesn't kill an opponent if they are willing to surrender. King Beway is a good example of John's compassionate nature, and this applies to other assassins as well. The blind assassin, Kane, in the latest installment, also dislikes unnecessary killing and adheres to a code of honor. He doesn't kill John when the latter is caught in an unfair fight in someone else's scheme, and even helps the assassin fight the notorious assassin played by Scott Adkins. The assassins work on a basis of mutual respect. This can be seen in the way their fight unfolds in John Wick Chapter 3. The titular protagonist faces two deadly opponents who are associates of the condemned assassin, Zero, and both pay tribute to John, indicating that it is a great honor to be able to fight him. The same thing happens when Santino's sister's bodyguard loses the fight to John Wick, or Zero suffers a similar fate. Beyond a code of ethics and mutual respect, the best assassins don't give up, and they consider death more honorable than surrender. In fact, this concept of honor also extends beyond the assassin world and can be applied to other professions involved in the underworld. For example, Aurelio in the first film doesn't dismantle and repaint John Wick's car because it is unethical. Some lesser-known assassins also seem to have the decency to attack John with complete justice. This unspoken code of honor, it actually helps the audience determine who the true villains are, like Santino and Vincent, who are not honorable men, and their deaths are celebrated as a major victory for John Wick, rather than some other one where he killed an honorable assassin. The dog he loves must not be harmed. This is the biggest rule of all. There may be a long list of rules and regulations followed by high tables and continental hotels around the world, but none are more serious than this one. One thing we've learned from the 4 John Wick films so far is the importance of keeping dogs safe. All hell breaks loose when dogs are hurt, and it started with the brutal murder of John Wick's puppy and extended to Sophia, who was shot in her bulletproof vest. Even in the latest release, John Wick Chapter 4, The Mysterious Assassin M. Nobody is very emotional about his dog and loses his mind when someone tries to harm him. Even John continues to have a soft side. For our K9 friends, we speak from experience when we say that this rule deserves to be the #1 unwritten and unspoken rule. It may seem ironic that an organization that essentially regulates crime worldwide has a strict code of ethics and rules to follow. However, without these systems, there would be utter chaos and anarchy. These rules are what add a level of accountability to the system, and it's a great idea on the part of the franchise's creators to introduce them as the law of the land that even the titular protagonist must follow. We invite you to share your thoughts on these strict rules and practices enforced by the high table. Which of them do you find more flexible than others? Leave your thoughts and comments below. Need I remind you that no business will be conducted on Continental grounds?